What I want to do now is spend some time on some product overview videos and maybe just get some thoughts, Randy, on what's described in the video here. Of course, this can be inserted anywhere into the presentation, and again, I'll turn this over to you, which you can download the videos right out of the presentation. But the first thing I want to look at is an overview of what it looks like working with Copilot from M365, and then we'll dive into some specific application scenarios in just a moment.
Sounds great.
Joni runs a software company focused on logistics efficiency and logs on in the morning to find a very crowded inbox. With Microsoft Copilot, Joni can supercharge her productivity and clear it in minutes by summarizing long email threads to focus on what matters most. Customers are her top priority, and she notices a customer escalation about missing shipment information in the software. Microsoft Copilot helps Joni unlock access to data and knowledge across her business and catch up on progress to fix the customer issue. She is excited to find that her team is already working on it. They've already triaged the issue and created several documents indicating they're making progress towards a resolution. In Excel, Copilot allows Joni to analyze and filter data faster to get immediate insights. She now recognizes that the customer escalation from the email thread relates to the same product bug others have experienced. She can also see resolution times are improving, and the product bug is being resolved. In Word, Joni is completing a user guide for the workaround. She uses Copilot to draft the workaround steps from the context of another document, saving her time and also removing the need to manually locate, summarize, and copy-paste the text. And finally, in Outlook, Joni uses Copilot to draft an email to affected customers, acknowledging the issue, providing a status update, and including the workaround instructions that they can use to keep their systems operational. Focus on what matters most and supercharge your productivity using Copilot for Microsoft 365 with the power of AI.
Awesome. So overall, it can help you in a lot of scenarios right there, just within that one application. Let's take a look at how to use really that biz chat and what that biz chat can actually do for you on the daily.
Introducing Microsoft 365 Chat, an interactive chat experience that's a bit like having your own chief of staff. It has access to all your meetings, your calendars, your files, your emails, and you can ask anything and it will reason over your entire business context to respond. Now, Microsoft 365 Chat can be experienced from 3 places. The first one is here in Bing. As long as you're signed in with your AAD account, so your work account, you'll have access to it. The next place is here in the Microsoft365.com homepage, which is also known as your Microsoft 365 app. And here you can see your Copilot option. And last but not least, because it's a chat experience, it makes sense to be in Teams chat as well. Now, it's important to understand all these 3 experiences are exactly the same, so it's like having 3 doorways to your house. You can use whichever door makes sense to you. So let's start with a simple example. We'll ask a very broad question like, what are the milestones for Project Falcon? What I like about this is that we're not giving it any specific instruction on where to look. Copilot will use the Microsoft Graph to figure out where references to Project Falcon exist and whatever assets I have access to. So not only does it provide an answer, but it also provides me a reference to a file, which is a huge time saver. The amount of time I spend trying to find a file that someone shared with me earlier on a project, for example, it now gives me that link. Here's the PowerPoint presentation, and if I jump to the right slide, here you can see the original source with the milestones for me to validate. But now I've saved myself a bunch of time finding the right content. Now let me show you some other examples. Here I created a 100-word bio based off of a resume. Now I could also have used LinkedIn, but this saves me 15 minutes from writing the latest bio for an event. Next, I wanted to create 10 catchy taglines for our new e-bike based on the Thunderbolt presentation. Now this is all done in a secure way. So here's another prompt. I want to use the second tagline from the previous response and create a 60-second elevator pitch for the e-bike in a way that will appeal to 25 to 45-year-olds. So here's the second tagline, experience the thrill of the Thunderbolt. And as you can see here, it's generated an elevator pitch for the e-bike in a way that will appeal to 25 to 45-year-olds using that tagline. Here's another example that I love. Create a SWOT analysis based on the presentation as well as the product specs and I'm asking it to include at least 5 items for each category. This is such a time saver. I've created 4 SWOT analysis in my life, and I know that because it was always an incredibly painful process and I always had writer's block. But this gets you to the 80% mark in seconds, generating the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in a way that will save you a bunch of time so you can just refine those. Next up, create a table with all the different types of Copilot from Microsoft with a column explaining what each one offers. And so here you can see the different Copilot responses as well as the descriptions. But what I like about this example here, it shows in the references that there are external sites where it pulled from. So you can see it's able to bring in live web data as well as your internal content.
This is so cool, David.
So just to show that that's not, just to show that Randy and I aren't just showing you a bunch of videos, I'm going to change it up a little bit and switch over to a live demonstration, specifically about those Fabricam e-bikes. So let me go ahead and pull up my demo instance here with Copilot. So I've got my license assigned. I'm good to go. I can see my Copilot is here. One of the easiest ways I want to call out too is if you're in your actual Viva Landing site and you're in your main organization's homepage, of course, this is just our demo environment. I could simply open Copilot for Work right from my right-hand side of the screen here. Once I'm in here, what I want to do is write a query that's going to help me understand a PDF that I have in my OneDrive. So let me actually go over to OneDrive real quick, go over to my files, and we're going to pretend that this is what we're talking about. So this is our Thunderbolt e-bike PDF, and this is the advertisement or the user book that we're talking about. You know, we can see how it's got all this stuff. We've got stuff over here. We've got stuff over here, different formats all over the place. I'm not going to remember all this. I'm not going to remember the address. I'm not going to remember how many miles it are in a single charge, all those different things. So what I can do is come over to my Copilot and basically say something like, let's see, what do I want to use? There we go. Let's ask it to use the information to create a short value presentation. So let's say use this information to write me a short value presentation on the, it understands everything that's in the document. It wrote me that value proposition. It told me where it's responding. But now what I want to do is say, okay, let me think about my competition that's going on out there and what they're actually producing. And I don't have any of this information inside my actual OneDrive. So if you look through my demo resources here and I close out this preview, I only have product specs in my PDF on this particular document. I don't have anything about my competition. But if you look at these little agent plugins right here, these actual Copilot response plugins, I do have web content turned on. And depending on your instance of Microsoft 365, whether or not your team has created custom Copilots, or maybe you're linked in with Salesforce or Dynamics, you might see other options to plug in under here, but we do have web content on right now. So now what I'm going to do is ask it to compare the specs with the top 3 e-bikes on the market and provide a tabular summary with citations. So I'm asking it to say, look at my bike and then look at the other bikes out there and give me a summary in a table format. And just like that, it's gone out and found 3 different e-bikes that are out there, the top sellers. You've got all of your citations here, which you can go directly to. So if we look at, hey, the best electric bikes, we can open that up. We can get right to where that article came from, where the citations were. But right off the bat, I've got all of this information made in a table for me, which I can then take and copy directly to Microsoft Excel, and I'm now proceeding with that day in the life type of work. So I really wanted to draw attention to those real world examples because it's not just, you know, flash and flare and videos. You're getting actual real-time information.
This is great, David. And one thing I wanted to ask you, because I actually did this yesterday while I was working on a project. If you look at the top section where it says work and web, I guess those are filters. Can you elaborate a little bit on those?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are working in the work context of Copilot right now. Now you'll only see this if you do have your Microsoft 365 Copilot license. And this is what Randy and I have been referring to as graph-grounded chat. So if you do have work context, that's why I was able to come here and say, oh, reference what's in my OneDrive, reference who I work with, reference all of my stuff. If I switch over to the web, you're going to get a little bit more of, I wouldn't say bare bones, but watered down experience. And that's because the web version is available for everyone, even if you don't have a Copilot for Microsoft 365 license. If you just have Microsoft 365 Business, Microsoft 365 Enterprise, you can come into Copilot and again, use that same entry point that I showed you earlier, but you won't see these two toggles between work and web. Also note, I just want to call out before I go forward, note that your history will always be right here on the right-hand side. So if you ever lose your place and something has disappeared, you can always expand and collapse your history right here. But let me switch back to the...
I was going to say it's funny. I was going to say it's funny you mentioned that history. I'm glad you did because yesterday when I was doing my project, I, just got distracted. And I had put so much work into these prompts and into these solutions. I was like, oh my God, I lost. Yeah, oh my God. Then I went to the history and it was right there. I was like, oh my God, thank God it's there because I had spent literally about an hour and a half just, refining the prompts, getting something to a very specific point, and that history really saved me.
So here's something I can do in the web version of Copilot. Now you'll notice if we look back at work real quick, we have all these plugin options. We have the @mention option. We could do visual creator with our different agents. We can add more agents. We can pull in people and say, when I talk to Diego about product specs on this particular partner call, it can reference all that stuff. But if I'm in web, which is just the very basic version of Copilot that everybody gets, there's nothing stopping you from coming in here and say, let me really put this through its paces and physically attach those files. So if you attach a file, what's actually going to happen is it's going to pull up your File Explorer on Windows or your Apple Finder on Mac. And you're free to upload PDFs, Word documents, Excel files, anything you wanted to understand. Even do things like pasting screenshots into it if you wanted to actually explain that for you. But what's going to happen here is I could still put a prompt like this in here. So what I'm going to do now, though, is iterate on this prompt because, again, this version of the Copilot, when we're on web, it doesn't have any contextual understanding of who you are or what you do. The work one does. So what you could say is, I am trying to develop and make a new e-bike for the, let's say, market. Help me compare the specs of the top e-bikes on the market and provide it as tabular data. So what it's going to do is say, okay, I'm still going to go out, I'm still going to use my web data. So everything that we did in the work format, you can still do over here to a certain extent. We still got our citations. We still got the option to download it. And notice how this download is intelligently formatted because Copilot knows this is a table. So when you download it, it's automatically going to offer you that download as an Excel file, which of course you can then pull up in Excel, you can manipulate, you can do whatever you want, but it's going to do all those different things. Add a row that contains top customer reviews and or feedback. And what it's going to do is now it's going to go out and say, oh, okay, I just need to redo this table with the same information. But now he's asking for a row based on top customer feedback. And it's actually going out, and you can see each of these rows are clickable. They're cited. These are real reviews that the Copilot found on the web. Add another row with the lowest rated customer feedback. And then add another row that compares the highest and lowest. So again, we're going through. Now I've added it to add to, right? So what it's done, if you've been on an online shopping site recently, maybe it's Amazon or Best Buy or something, you'll notice AI generated insights that are on each product above all the hundreds or thousands of reviews that a product might have. So what this just did for me is it not only went out, got the top customer reviews for each, then it got the lowest ones, which again, I can click in to see more about if I need to expand on them. But then it also added another row that compared the two right in line. I mean, that to me, Randy, it's such a time saver when you're working on this stuff. And again, I'm talking about e-bikes. The actual particular demo tenant that I'm working in has nothing to do with e-bikes. So this is a real game changer for anyone looking to do this type of work.
Yeah, I mean, the very fact that it's laying it out for you as clean as it is. I mean, you and I have worked on Excel sheets that, they get disastrous if you move one row one way or another. This is getting you the data and formatting it in a way that's visually appealing. So you're getting the design standpoint as well as actually the data that you're looking for.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome stuff. Let's now look at, so we looked at the overall Microsoft Copilot. We looked at Copilot in chat. We talked a lot about our unique customer scenarios, about using Copilot for those Teams meeting transcripts. I want to show you now what that actually looks like in practice.
Copilot in Teams will completely transform your meetings. In order to experience Copilot in a meeting, somebody needs to record or transcribe the meeting so that Copilot has a transcript to work from. This lets you privately ask questions in the Copilot chat on the right-hand side to help you stay on top of the meeting, whether joining late or if you had to step away for a few minutes. Here I'm asking a question about the content that was presented, namely how Copilot is different from ChatGPT. Copilot will analyze the transcript and provide a response. Here it says that Copilot has access to your business data. It offers details about how Copilot inherits the same security permissions as the user. Now, Copilot will not pull in context from prior meetings. It only uses the transcript from this meeting. It's also easy to track if there were any questions. And not only does it identify the question, it also provides the answer that was presented. You can also use Copilot to offer some out-of-the-box thinking by asking it to offer challenging questions that you could ask the presenter. Here, check these questions out. How does Copilot handle data from third-party or external sources? What tools can help companies protect their sensitive files? These are great questions to help guide the conversation forward.
This is exactly how I'm using Copilot during our meetings now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is it can be used during your meeting. It can be used with a transcription, without a transcription and recording. It all depends on what your requirements are and how you want to use it. But the point of the actual Microsoft 365 Copilot is to be as adaptable and malleable as someone you would have on your own team that works 24/7.
Right.
Our running joke about our Copilot internally is that he is the hardest working, lowest paid person on the team.
Exactly.
Now, building off this, what happens after the meeting? And what I want to do is just quickly show off how the actual meeting recap functions happen in Teams when you do have that Copilot agent. So you've recorded your meeting. Randy and I talked a lot today about, we want to pull in insight from that meeting and things that were said. This is how it actually looks and feels inside the Teams app.
Now I'm going to show you how you can use Copilot to catch up on a meeting that happened in the past. And I'm particularly excited about this experience because it means you don't have to attend every meeting. Why attend a full hour meeting if you could just spend 3 minutes asking the questions to get the information you need? So starting from the meeting chat, you'll see a new tab called Recap. Now, if you have Teams Premium, you'll also see these experiences, which includes a video playback of the meeting, the ability to jump down to where a certain person spoke, like Derek. You can click here and it jumps you directly to that point in the meeting. Or you can jump directly to topics. So if you're interested in knowing about the marketing launch plan, you can just jump directly to that part of the video. It even breaks down the chapters. This makes it really easy to jump directly to the part of the meeting that you care most about. It also gives you a direct link to any file that was shared, which is a real time saver. And you'll also see AI-generated meeting notes and tasks. Now let's open Copilot. It's important to realize you don't need to have Teams Premium to have Copilot, and you don't need to have Copilot to have Teams Premium, but they are better together. So let's see what we can uncover about this meeting. I'm going to ask it to summarize the objectives of this meeting in one sentence. Now it's going to take a moment to analyze the transcript, and here we see The objective of this meeting was to discuss and decide on the launch timing and the executive spokesperson for Project Falcon. So a good follow-up question would be, were there any important decisions made? And we'll give it a second. So yes, there were some important decisions. Now I'm not going to read all of them, but you can see this first one. The team decided to delay the launch of Project Falcon by 2 weeks to allow more time for testing and product certification. So that's a pretty significant development. Now just knowing the outcome is interesting, but you can dig deeper. You can ask it, was it an easy decision to delay? Was anyone upset by it? By asking questions like this, you can learn a lot more about a meeting than just what you would get from meeting minutes. Here we see that the decision to delay was not an easy one, and it involved some disagreement. Jason and Callie initially opposed the delay, while listing the others who supported it. And it also showed that the team eventually reached a compromise. And as you can see, every comment includes a citation, so you can easily verify where in the transcript it arrived at that conclusion. This makes it incredibly efficient to analyze what happened in a meeting. Now, as a follow-up question, let's ask Copilot to list all the pros and cons of the decision to delay in a table. This organizes all the discussion points in an easily digestible way. Here we go. It allows for more time for product testing and certification. It reduces the risk of a poor user experience and negative press. This helps me reach my own conclusion whether I agree with the decision. Now, we also needed to decide the launch date and spokesperson for the event. Let's ask Copilot to list all the dates mentioned in the meeting in chronological order. Even if there were a lot of comments to triage, Copilot can really help. And check this out, it's presented in a way that's easy to digest. And for my final question, I'm going to ask Copilot to recommend what day we should hold the launch event, and who should be our executive spokesperson at the event, and why it thinks that. Now I'm asking Copilot to reason over a lot of complex data, something we would struggle with in a meeting. The launch event should be on September 2nd because it's the earliest date that allows for a full day of rehearsals. You can see here, the executive spokesperson should be Paul because he's available on these 2 dates. And it even calls out that Amy, who is the CEO, is traveling back from Japan on the 1st, and despite the fact that she's available on the 2nd, she will likely be jet-lagged. These experiences you see here are going to save you hours every month because you don't need to attend every single meeting. And this is a really powerful way to stay on top of your meetings without needing to attend them all.
Well, I'm sold, David. I don't have to attend all the meetings anymore.
And that's really the power. This is what I was really talking about earlier when you look at the power of being grounded in the Microsoft Graph. Your Copilot knows everything you have access to. And I say you have access to rather than you know, because let's be honest, you and I, we don't read exactly everything that comes across our desk, which means our inbox, our chat. It's impossible. There's just too much. But your Copilot knows, and it knows 24/7, 365 days a year. There are just a couple more demos that I have specifically for applications. I can either go through all 4 of them, Randy, or I can do either Word, PowerPoint, Excel, or Outlook, whichever one you're most interested.
Let's do Outlook. I think that's one that really helps people get organized.
Perfect. All right. So let's take a look at Outlook. And of course, we mentioned this earlier in a lot of our scenarios for different workloads that we looked at. So it always comes back to, we need to communicate with our staff. That's going to be an email. Maybe it's from a shared mailbox. Maybe it's from an individual mailbox. But this is how the experience really looks and feels.
Here I am in an email thread of several messages, and I was the last to be added to a thread. I can tap Summary by Copilot to get a real quick analysis of what this email is about. Here are the 3 main points. Alice is interested in getting access to Copilot and sharing it with her customers. Corey has suggested that I would be the person to help, and Alice is now asking me for access to Copilot and to arrange a presentation for her customer. I can reply to the message now and click Draft with Copilot. I need to give it some instruction. Now the beauty is I don't have to give too much context, but of course the more I give it, the more accurately it will create what I need. So let's start with Copilot access in November. For now, use pitch deck demos. I can present to your customer in 2 weeks and follow up with me in 3 weeks for Copilot access. Before I generate it, I can change the tone, including making it sound like me. which uses my recent sent items to identify and apply unique characteristics of my writing style. But in this example, I want to make it formal and medium length. And now Copilot gets to work. Now it goes without saying, the more instruction you give Copilot when it's creating an email, the more accurate it's going to be. So here's your first draft. Let's hit keep. Now, if you try to send it, Copilot will let you know, please check it before you send it because AI-generated content may be incorrect. This just serves as a reminder that Copilot can get things wrong and you are always in the driver's seat. So let's take a look. I'm glad to hear that you're interested in Copilot and want to share it with your customers. Copilot is indeed a powerful tool that can help developers write better code faster and easier. Now, it's interesting that it wrote that, because if you look further down, there's a sentence that Alice used. Copilot seems to be an amazing new tool that helps you write better code faster and easier. So it's using the context from the email below to help respond to the email. So not only is it following your instruction, but it's pairing that with what it knows about the email thread. Now, of course, you'd want to refine the email so that it's ready to send. Now, this experience works very well on mobile as well, which is one of the ways I use it most of the time.
So really, really interesting about how your entire inbox can now have your Copilot. And that's really why it's called a Copilot. It is next to you, with you every single day, and it contextually understands everything that you as a human can put eyes on.
Exactly. This is one of the ways that I started getting into Copilot, just using it in Outlook. When it first came out, I got an official license. This is how I started using it. And then from there, so many doors opened up and being able to use it in different applications. David, you provide a lot of information regarding Copilot today. This is awesome. Again, over deliver as always, Dave. The one thing I wanted to maybe have you kind of finish up on is, what is, the licensing model, the licensing cost for Copilot that we see in today's presentation, and any final words of wisdom for folks that are, new to this, obviously starting to hear about it, starting to see it show up in different applications. How can they actually start implementing it moving forward as an organization or even as an individual to help them improve their day-to-day productivity?
So how you can get started with this, right? So the benefit of working with IT Pros Management is they're a Microsoft partner. And by being a Microsoft partner, they can facilitate the entire acquisition, cost optimization, and distribution and assignment of these licenses from Microsoft. So you don't need to worry about any of the heavy lifting that goes involved with getting it set up. Now, in addition to that, one of the things that IT Pros is also going to be doing is following best practices when it comes to data security when assigning a Copilot license. So as you can see, Copilot can see everything that you can see. Now, what we're going to do before we just assign you a Copilot license is we're going to make sure that you should be able to see what you should be able to see. Otherwise, we run the risk of overexposing that. And I'm sure a lot of us have heard, stories about AI and needing to make sure your permissions are set appropriately. I just want to reassure everybody that that's all part of the process that we do here. So we're going to make sure that your Copilot is set up the way it should be for you to start. Copilot's very simple when it comes to pricing. It starts at $30 per user per month, and it is sold on a 1-year term commitment. So essentially, that $360, you picture that, you get that in there, you've got Copilot for a year. And there's actually a technical reason behind that. It's not just, hey, we want to lock you in for a year, Microsoft doesn't want to lock you in for a year. It is because your Copilot is going to start building what's called a semantic index. The semantic index is going to allow it to study who you are and how to best support you. So what you might notice is on day one, when you first get that Copilot license, it might not be as effective as you'd hoped. But then you go back on day 2 and its responses are all of a sudden so much better. Day 3, they get even better. Day 4, so on and so forth. It learns as you use it. And that's why it's important to stick with the generative AI tools like Copilot for as long as possible, because it's going to be able to contextually understand your work habits For example, in the demo of Outlook, you heard the presenter talk about the actual sound like me tone that you can do in Outlook. Well, it needs time to study your emails, understand what those sound like, what do your responses look like. But all in all, from start to finish, IT pros will be able to take your company, assign the appropriate Copilot licenses to the appropriate users, and also at the same time make sure that you're set up in a secure way so that your users are accessing the data that they should be able to access and nothing more.
Thanks, David, for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is awesome. So I really would want to make sure that folks know on the screen we're going to be having a QR code pop up here shortly, and that's basically to schedule a discovery call with myself, potentially even David. We can bring David in and some other members of his team on a discovery call regarding Copilot or any other Microsoft 365 solutions that you may be interested in talking about and seeing how you can leverage it. But again, we want to start the conversation off now that we've provided some information and additional education on the platform. We want to continue that that discussion with you on a one-on-one basis for your organization. Bring in the stakeholders, bring in the people that you think will leverage the technology and be able to use it to an advantage for your organization. And that just starts with a discovery call. Again, it's not a sales call, really. It's just a discovery call for us to understand your business and see how we can implement these solutions and help your organization adopt Copilot. Because I've been to a lot of recent seminars and trainings for the end of the year, and one of the things that I hear over and over again from industry leaders is artificial intelligence, AI, is as the same as 15, 20 years ago when people were talking about cloud. So when I talked about cloud 15, 20 years ago, people would stare at me in the face and glaze over. AI is the same way, but it's moving at a faster pace than even the cloud did. So think of it that way, that it's not just a technology, it's tools, it's a way of doing business. And these are business models that we need to adapt to be able to stay ahead of the game. David, any other final words of wisdom? I know you've laid a lot of knowledge on us today.
No, it's awesome. Just echoing on what you said about the rate of change and rate of adoption. I mean, if we look back, I have other visuals, of course. Get on, schedule that with Randy. Definitely take advantage of that session. I'd love to go deeper with all of you on how we use Copilot, what can be done, some more practical hands-on demonstrations. What we're trying to say here is it's not just about getting you the license, making sure your stuff is safe. It's also making sure that you've made a smart investment. So it's what we do at IT Pros and this whole Microsoft partner program is it's not about just saying, hey, let's sell you the Copilot and you're good to go, good luck with it. It's about nurturing that relationship and making sure that you're really adjusting your business practices to this modern way of work. If we look at the rate of adoption when it comes to Copilot versus other tools, we think back to the mid-2000s and the late 90s, it took about 15 years for home internet to really be adopted and people to start using keyword search index. ChatGPT and generative AI tools came out in 2022 for the public use. And that has taken less than a year to become adopted by enterprise. And I don't know about you, Randy, but I've never seen enterprise jump on something as fast as I've seen these Gen AI things. And that's something that us as managed service providers and Microsoft partners have a real laser focus on, because we know that this is what's going to be front and center for you over the next 5, 10, 15, even 20 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've never seen any kind of technology be adopted by the enterprise at this pace and this level. So you're absolutely right. With that said, I certainly appreciate your time today, David. Thanks for co-hosting this with me. And folks, again, if you want to have that discoveries call, that discussion, just looking at AI, looking at Copilot a little bit closer, go ahead and schedule a call. QR code's on the screen, and we'll get you set up and we'll get you in the right direction and get you a little bit more education and get you on your way to using Copilot as your Copilot in your business. Again, David, thank you very much. Have a good day, and everybody have a good rest of your day. Appreciate your time. Thank you.